Gentlemen, welcome to Friday's show. Friday is our big domestic extravaganza, but today, we're talking about some policy stuff that's domestic related policy, but it's not going to be a spicy and juicy domestic issues show. So forgive me if I am not giving you what you want on that. But that being said, I think the things that we're going to talk about today are pretty interesting, and I got the right crew of guys to do that with me today. Uh, the economics of war and how to lose a war. This is Council on Future Conflict, episode 385. I am your host, Scott, and today, first up, Joe. Welcome, brother. How are you doing?
I am doing well and good. I'm over here jumping on with Phoenix Ammunition against a local politician who, despite his odd gun stance on Twitter yesterday, nodded along with my speech at the Second Amendment Foundation, and his wife asked some pretty solid questions. So I wonder what's changed in the last couple of weeks to change his mind. Funding, maybe? But anyway.
Well, have you? Maybe reach out to him, and just, here's the funny thing is like when the corruption runs out, people start kind of going to their conscience a little bit, maybe. I wonder if some of these politicians are going to find themselves at the end of a checkbook that's not checks that aren't being cashed anymore.
Well, he's saying that none of the parts in a civilian AR fit the parts of an M4 carbine, which is
absolutely incorrect.
Is absolutely and demonstrably false. So if you think that, you have no place being a politician.
And the other thing
hold up. Also, can we just say, way to stealth admit that you stole a small arms kit?
Well, what he's probably talking about are the kind of low shelf. Remember the ban ARs back in the late '90s, with the shelf where you couldn't put a full auto select sear in there.
What's funny is this wording always tells it. I was in the military for 6 years. When a guy says the military, he generally means the Navy or the Air Force. So right. I'm just throwing that out there.
I just have to say, Chaotic Torment, I wasn't aware that I had uploaded my at-work videos.
Oh, listen, Chaotic Torment, this is an event that me and Matt have everybody watch. Scott was there for it. We watch this every time we teach a class. We watch drones chasing crackheads, and it is a lot of fun.
Oh, well, I should add that I, watcher, have taken it upon myself over the last little while to try and keep myself a little safer. Have started doing night patrols at the facility using a drone. And I have started chasing drone bums. Like my drone doesn't have a speaker, so I can't yell at them.
You need to start uploading that footage, watcher, to your channel.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm not recording, but all it does take is to reach the thumb up and hit that button. So,
well, I like Josh Card gives me the idea. I wish I was. They did it with Lime scooters. Now Lime scooters would disable it. Now, here's what I want. I want to take these internet scooter guys going around cities and chase them with drones. I
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think so too. You get just.
Well, okay.
Drone
here's the problem. Everybody says, "Oh, watcher, you need to post the footage." That's my backyard, bro.
Everybody knows.
I'm not posting that footage.
No one's safe. Well, just see, whatever. Anyway, all right. It's still, I think, it'd be funny. And you don't have to say it's your backyard. You could say, "Here's some random footage that I found in a town that I do not live in."
Let me say one more thing before we move off of me, and it's radio related, because this weekend, hams all over the country will participate in something called Field Day. But I overheard on GMRS radio last night this conversation. A GMRS guy said, "Hey man, can you give me the location? I'd like to come to your ham fest and watch what you guys do." And the ham guy said, "Nah. You wouldn't understand it, and you wouldn't be able to operate the equipment anyway, so don't come." And you wonder why your hobby is on the decline. You wonder why. Anyway.
That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
I
People
actually-
express interest, and you say, "No, man, you're just too dumb for this." It's silly.
Scott, sadly,
Yeah.
not a that's a huge part of the problem. Is that as soon as you hear ham people are involved, that's what I expect.
They're just not good people, I don't think.
They're nerds, and they're nerds for a reason, right?
Well, yeah, the antisocial part really kind of is off-putting.
Yeah.
It'll be shocking. Jim, how's it doing? How's it going, brother?
It's good. Life's good, man. Just moving around a lot. So I got about an hour and some time today. And good morning, Rick. Hope Florida's good. Yeah, moving along. So,
Jim,
the
on the
subjects
question
today
we
are of
asked you
interest.
earlier, I'm going to need you to change your answer because I don't accept it. So just figure that out, okay?
Duh.
Okay.
Hey, Hunch.
Let's see.
If Hunch and I are going to be there, you have to be there.
That's right. And I bet we could even get Rick and, a couple, basically we need to get the crew from last summer that was out at the.
I
at the
actually
G
believe
camp.
most of them are planning on coming. And that reminds me, Clark boys, tell your dad I will get that posted today, the date for Tennessee. Anyway.
And I think Natalie's coming too.
Yes, Natalie has already said she's coming.
Yes, that's right. So
Hey, listen, if y'all
it should be a fun time.
Yeah, wait until you meet the Clark brothers' dad. That dude just rocks, by the way.
All right, real quick, let me read this super chat here. Hunch Dirty Roof for $5. Watcher, when you record the footage, dub over the flight of the Valkyries, and if you do any strafing runs on them.
Yeah, I have to find some open source sources for that. But yeah.
So, Watcher, this drone, is this a Chinese manufactured drone?
It is. It's just
So-
it's a plain old DJI. The lot itself is well lit enough that I don't have to worry about the low
this
light
is great, man.
situation.
Did it come with like a training guide from the People's Armed Police on how to?
I know. No.
How
I'll
to
tell
make
you,
sure
though.
we're able to get your footage here in China? Please
I'll
make
tell
sure
you, though.
connect to the internet.
I will. Well, that's part of the thing, though. By the way, so one of the things you can do in order to short circuit Chinese control of drones, it's pretty simple, is don't use their fucking control interface, everybody.
Yeah.
There are multiple open source control interfaces that make it so that Chinese drone is never going to be able to talk back to its Chinese servers. All you got to do is not use the DJI interface, which, to be honest, most of these other open source things actually have a ton of additional tools that DJI is not allowed to build into their software because various different countries don't think that non-pro level users should be using it. Stuff like, hey, fly this flight pattern instead of you manually flying it yourself.
You bad hack drone boy. I smell hack drone.
Yup.
Well, but all the best drones have been hacked.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you what though. Right now, I am trying to figure this out and can't. The drone has a very, very, very light capacity. I could put just a couple grams on it, but I need something that'll act like a PA system, and I can't figure out anything that's that light that'll let me do it.
Let's see. What else? Right, Sean. How's life going for you?
I'm fighting with a set of taillights that don't want to let go. Other than that, pretty good. We're tracking the, as you know, because I've talked about it, the governor did not actually get enough delegates at the state convention to be on the ballot. And as it turns out,
probably also cheated on his signature collection.
Yes, he had signatures, but it looks like he cheated.
But problem,
The
guess
lieutenant
who-
governor is in charge of it.
Yeah, and they're refusing to release the signatures. So
So corruption all around. Good to know.
Correct.
Good to know. I mean, let's be honest. Even in the most based of states, I would expect nothing more. Oh, look at this. Long time no see. Stormy enters the chat. What member for 21 months? Hail and happy Friday. I'm getting ready to go to my son's 8th grade moving up ceremony, but wanted to say, hey, Have a great weekend. Stormy, it's so nice to see
Oh,
you.
that's so awesome.
So
Yeah,
moving up ceremony sounds like politically correct speech for graduation, right? I had an 8th grade graduation.
Yeah, but you're not really graduating. You're
Yeah,
just kind
well,
of going to the school across the street,
Well,
right?
But you literally are graduating from middle school and into high school.
But see, back when you and I graduated from 8th grade, a lot of the kids said, "Okay, I'm done.
Yeah,
I ain't
so
going to high school. I'm going to work."
I actually have like a definitive, is it a graduation or a moving up ceremony? And the question is, are they staying in the same building?
Right.
That's a good point. Actually, I'm so old. Mine was called a junior high school. So
Yeah, same here.
No,
I went to both
same.
a junior high school and a middle school.
Same.
Was it traumatic leaving crayons behind?
When
because
did
I
that
did
happen?
no such thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say when did that happen?
That's the difference between junior high and middle school. Middle school is sans crowns. Junior high is with crowns. So
Junior high was the best 4 years of my life.
I have crayons within reach.
I thought of you the other day, Joe. My wife threw away some crayons. So
Throwing away good food. Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention when we were talking about drones, but Don and I watched birds legit try to take down a drone. In Oklahoma.
Oh,
They
so
were,
fun.
They don't play, man.
Fun fact that I think you two will appreciate particularly, and you should probably put together a course on how to do this. Crows not only have incredibly good first-person memory, they also teach their children the grudges that they hold and teach their children to go after the same things they have grudges against. So literally all it takes for you to cause birds, particularly a group of crows in a particular area, to continuously attack any drone that they see is to harass them with a drone for a while.
So these were sparrows. I think it played into the fact that the field had just been hayed that morning. So they were like in sort of a feeding frenzy. And when that interloper drone came through, man, they legit started dive bombing it and trying to drive it off. And Joel was like, I got to get a drone away from these crazy birds. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you see nature start to fight back against technology, it's always kind of, I don't know if it's going to work, but it's always interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to answer a question. Somebody in the chat asked me, oh shoot, I don't even know where it is. Somebody asked me which drones do I recommend. And my recommendation is that's highly dependent on what you're planning on doing with it. But in almost any scenario, building your own drone or buying a DIY build your own drone kit is almost always the superior solution to anything off the shelf. You're going to get all the same control features you want out of something nicer. Plus you get to customize it to be exactly what you want. Nothing more, nothing less.
Somebody else pointed out, Tactical Wisdom, thanks for pointing out the camping blanket on Amazon. I'm going to snatch it up. Listen, y'all, that's a phenomenal deal. Less than $22 for the Climate Overland Horizon blanket. And Marcus, I don't know if he's in the chat, he'll attest that it saved his life one night in North Carolina. It was really cold. It's a $100 blanket, and you can get it for $22. Waterproof on one side. It's like a whoopee on steroids. So I just posted the link again over on Twitter. Go and check it out. Go get that thing.
All right. Watcher, how's life treating you out there in the Dusty West?
Oh, doing good. So I figure this is as good a time as any. A lot of people are kind of relying on me since I live out here for water thing updates. So let me get you what I got. First of all, if you want a way more in-depth explanation, I would go directly to Rumble. No, after the show here, I'll find a link for it. But there is a town hall that took place Wednesday morning, where two of the main people involved give a rundown of both the history of the situation and what's going on now. There's also like an hour active Q&A session with that, so you guys should be able to, if you have a question, somebody probably asked it. But let me summarize. People are asking who is doing this. That's a hyper complicated answer. I am going to provide an in-depth thing on that, but it's going to take a while and some finalizing some investigations and a bunch of other stuff. So just suffice to say that it is older surface water holders further downstream that, because of Idaho's laws, technically have primacy, and normally they would have to roll back on the newest rights holders, which would be people that, starting last year drilled their wells. But because they've been doing some deal swapping with people like that, they essentially say, hey, we're not going to call you. We are going to call the people in the middle and squeeze them. There's a lot more to it than that. I think honestly, you guys have to actually see a big map of the river and understand how the river flows and how these canal systems that we're talking about feed off and then back onto the river to understand some of what we're talking about. So I am preparing some infographics to go along. I'm gonna do a full actual documentary about this, potentially more than one 30-minute length kind of thing.
So
Because
suffice
it's
to
super.
say, this is not as simple a
No.
solution as we'd like it to be.
Not even close. And unfortunately, there's no silver bullet here by any stretch of the imagination, partially because so many of the parties are motivated to make sure that these farmers go out of business. This isn't the first time it's happened. It won't be the last. However, as I said on Twitter yesterday, there's good news in some ways. There has been a reprieve signed by the governor because a lot of pressure got put on him to essentially allow everything to continue out until the end of October, which would allow all the people who currently have crops planted to harvest. But it's not over by any stretch of the imagination. And actually, this puts us in a rather bad position because we've got all the political momentum on our side right now. We have all the pressure on our side right now. But Idaho legislature isn't meeting until next year.
Very good. Very good.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, I think this is a complex issue, and that it won't go away easily, and a lot of people are going to get hurt. So,
and the other thing, everybody's asking, is this about the Ukraine cobalt mine? No. I understand why you think that, because it is less than 200 miles from where we're talking about. However, it's multiple mountain ranges away and is not even close to on our water table. Their water flows the opposite direction.
Over in the Rumble chat, Penis Saves Helicopter Tours for $5 says, what's with water in Idaho? To borrow a quote from Luca Brazzi, either water or blood will fertilize the soil. Also, has anyone devised a mini SAM system to combat drones? I make sugar oxide model rockets.
Yes, I have. Number 4 shot is highly effective against drones.
So, yeah, I mean, number 4 shot's great for stuff that's low flying. If it gets a little higher than that, I mean, your sugar rocket can reach it. Your sugar rocket can reach it. The issue is targeting.
But yeah, so we're gonna actually, in the first segment, we're gonna be talking about some of the drone stuff and the kind of the economics of that. We're also going to talk about gun systems to use against drones versus other solutions, and why even gun systems, Western style gun systems, not the shotgun that a poor country boy might use, but the Western solutions to gun systems, he's even fairly bankrupt. So
Scott, if you're all right with it, there's a couple questions in chat about this that I'm just going to kind of go over. One,
go
Cholo
ahead.
asks, is there a seaport in Idaho? Yes, interestingly, there is. They go all the way up the Columbia River, and then from the Columbia to the Snake, and then there's an inland port facility there. They can't
barge traffic.
Yeah, and it's well. Here's a interesting fact that you would bring that up, Juan Cholo, because it is our own congressman who has introduced the bill in order to blow up all the dams that inland port and all of the barge traffic upriver rely on for the salmon which are at current very steady numbers and have been for a long time, and are currently tolerating the fish ladders and other solutions we have for them to get around our dams. So
Was there anything else in chat you wanted to address, Watcher,
I
before we move on?
thought there was, but I am having issues finding it now that I'm scrolling past it. So
Yeah, Job Well Done says that the tungsten shot is nice, but but expensive. Yes, it absolutely is. All right, let's jump into our first odds and ends today, gentlemen. This is like the most domestic of domestic stories that we'll be doing today. Watch. Gavin Newsom's Oakland, California transformed into war zone on Juneteenth. Now, you know, I have no issue with federal holiday. I mean, whatever. That being said, when you create a holiday that essentially creates violence in the populations that it's meant to celebrate, I don't think that is doing anybody any favors. Dramatic footage has surfaced on X showing a Juneteenth celebration in Oakland, California, which was transformed into a war zone in overnight hours. What appears to be gang-on-gang violence sparked an insane shootout on city streets. In a state governed by radical leftist Gavin Newsom, this guy, isn't he supposed to be the one who's ready for prime time, the adult that could take over for Joe Biden if it's determined
because
that
this is exactly what they actually want. So
yeah, that's exactly right, Joe. They want to destroy the country, and this makes him the perfect candidate to do that. In a state governed by radical leftists, Gavin Newsom, where common sense law and order are seemingly absent, such scenes are becoming more frequent. This incident further exemplifies why people and businesses continue to flee to safer red states. Local media outlet SF Gate reported that as many as 5,000 people attended a Juneteenth celebration in Oakland's Lake Merritt area. Around 8:15 local time, a fight broke out at a sideshow involving motorbikes and vehicles. You mean a street takeover?
So a sideshow involving motorbikes and vehicles. In other words, a street takeover riot.
Takeover, exactly right. And it was at that moment that all hell erupted. During that fight, multiple shots rang out. So let's watch this video, this X thing right underneath. Just go down a little further. Yeah, there you go. Let's see what there is to see. You probably want audio for gunshots.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's sorry. I was muted, but that's what I was just asking. Is do you all want the highly flavorful audio?
So, yeah. Let's
prepare yourselves.
But they are on. No, they shooting at each other.
And demonetized.
And this is Kharkiv, right? This is this is Oakland.
His first rounds were 7.62 by 39. Don't know how I know that.
They love those Dracos, those little Draco pistols.
What? Stop! Oh, you live in the inner city. You're around gang violence on a consistent basis. Somebody started shooting and you ran towards the victim laying on the ground. What is wrong with you? Do you want to die?
Well, I mean, change the context.
Here's what's funny. Similar events happened all over the country, but the most significant one was down in Texas, and everyone immediately said, "Oh, it was a white supremacist who rolled up and attacked it." Yeah, well, the mugshot came out today, and he is the weirdest looking white supremacist I have ever seen. So
white supremacy is very inclusive these days. You didn't know that, Joe?
Yeah.
Where's the post? Man, it's fucked up how inclusive racists are.
Yes, absolutely. So Oakland PD said there are no known fatalities. There are some reports that at least 4 people were injured. No arrests have been made in connection with the shooting. Police said, surprise, surprise, surprise. I almost want to get that Gomer Pyle clip just to be able to play that. It's currently unknown if there was a single shooter or multiple shooters. That would even be showing support for the Marine Corps there. He's one of the more famous Marines out there, right? Gomer Pyle. Oakland has been plagued with illegal sideshows where out of control. Why do they call it sideshows? The street takeover.
Stop
thing.
using that term. They're
Yeah,
riots.
that is.
Well,
that's
but this,
they call it a sideshow because that's their term for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because I've never heard that before. The story is literally the first time I've ever heard that term sideshow. That's why I said AKA street takeover. And Joe, he said the same thing almost the exact same time. Out of control use, drive recklessly on streets, and in some cases, it light cars on fire and shoot stores
And loot places. Look.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, like this. Now this is
no,
this is the
the gearheads that are out illegally racing cars would
I hope
rob an
Patrick's
auto
okay.
parts store.
well,
I mean,
don't
at least
worry.
they stayed on topic.
When they saw the sign that said "school upstairs," they said, "Oh, we're not going to go there. There's nothing."
Well,
worth
look,
going to."
they're just trying to get their reparations because everyone knows AutoZone was heavily involved in the slave trade.
That's right. That's right. Lance Corporal veteran. I used to work government housing for 3 years. This is a taste. All right.
I challenge people with this. I grew up in a 99% black neighborhood. We never ever had a Juneteenth celebration anywhere in the 6-block area that I ran in with my neighbors.
Yeah, because
ask folks when the first Juneteenth celebration they ever attended was. I bet it's way more recent than they would have you believe.
yeah, it's absolutely part of the same movement that generated what's it, the 1618 project or whatever,
Yes.
the
1614.
1614 project, right? That whole kind of neo-Marxist kind of Marxist racial thing is absolutely what created all of that. Anyway, so yeah, I guess this is where, Joe, this is actually a great segue. It's a little early for the promo segment, but this is actually a great segue to the, don't look out for the collapse. You're already in one situation. And I know you're writing about that this week, right?
Already did. The article is already posted.
Over on tactical-wisdom.com. Great, kind of great place for all that kind of stuff. What's in that article? Just give people a little taste.
I wrote about everyone's because we've all been brought up on apocalyptic books like James Wesley Rawls and William Forstchen and all that stuff. Is we've been brought in the great movies like Mad Max and all those other serious movies that there would be some big cataclysmic event that would start a collapse, and then things would go down from there. But history shows us that it's actually quite different. It's a degradation of law and order, unequal application of justice, and economic woes that generally lead to actual real collapses. And when you step back and look at this, it's you're about midway through one. You're living in it now. What happens most often is that folks look around and see a collapsed society and go, oh gosh, it happened about 9 months ago. We just didn't really notice. That's kind of where you are right now. And that's what the article's about, and steps you can take to kind of raise your daily situational awareness. One of the recommendations I make in the article is watch this show, subscribe to services like Knightsbridge and Forward Observer, and get as much info as you can on what's going down, right? So, yes, Happy Plague Doctor, the first Mad Max movie was probably the best. The first and the third, they were both pretty solid. You can't beat Tina Turner.
I just learned something about the first Mad Max movie yesterday.
Hold on a second, real quick, Watcher. I'd just like to say the reason why Tina Turner absolutely would be a leader in the post-apocalyptic wasteland is because Ike really tuned her up and made her.
Ike got her ready for it. In Forging Freedom, we got the number wrong because we literally just don't care.
I was wrong, but Joe is actually right on that one.
What was it? Oh, so fun fact. I think everybody would be the dog in the original Mad Max movie was adopted from a pound by the production because none of the dog actors they could find gave off the proper vibe. They were all way too friendly.
And so that dog actually appears in all of them, and his name is Dog.
He got adopted by one of the film crew. Yeah.
What's funny, I saw somebody put up a post about the Australian cattle dog, which the dog in that movie is, and it says, an Australian cattle dog is really just a Belgian Malinois who drinks unfiltered Marlboros and lives in a single wide. True. It's true.
All right. Speaking of smoking unfiltered Marlboros and living in a single wide, I think that pretty much sums up the life of a Filipino Marine. And that's the reason why they gave the most base performance in years the other day in the South China Sea. Now, so this is an interesting. It was just on Wednesday's show when we were talking about the kind of protests back and forth between the Philippines and the Chinese, and some of the kind of the use of that high pressure water. We had a Philippine Coast Guardsman lose a finger. There were several other injuries and whatnot. And we were just talking about this is absolutely an area that's ready to boil over at any moment. And then within 24 hours, we get this. And I feel like this must have happened right about the time of a show on Wednesday. Dramatic new video shows the latest ramming incident between Chinese and Philippine vessels in contested area with the South China Sea. And it reveals clear escalation, which involved the Chinese side clearly brandishing weapons. The incident happened near the Second Thomas Shoal on Monday. Okay, so it was Monday, where the Philippine military has troops stationed as part of its claim on the Spratly Islands. Manila officials said that the military vessels were en route. They were on a normal humanitarian supply mission with boats that were deliberately rammed and boxed in by Chinese Coast Guard ships. The video shows Chinese crew hacking at inflatable vessels with axes and knives. And the melee at sea left one Filipino soldier severely injured. He lost his son. So this is the incident that we were talking about the statement of on Wednesday. All right, so this makes sense now. The event has been denounced as piracy after the Philippine soldiers fought off the armed Chinese soldiers with bare hands. Financial Times describes that several clips released by the armed forces of the Philippines late on Wednesday showed Chinese Coast Guard speedboats assisted by at least one large Coast Guard ship ramming the Philippine boats and trapping them between the Chinese ones with ropes. This marks the sharpest escalation in the standoff of the Second Thomas Shoal intentionally ground. So this is in and around that intentionally ground U.S. Navy ship from 1999. So, all right, real quick, let's figure out. So the guys with the black helmets and the orange vests are all Chinese Coast Guards. The gray vessel, the guys that are in what look like camouflage, they're in the center with this light gray boat with the three engines. That's the Philippine Marines.
They've all got look at those knives on those Chinese sailors closest to the camera. They all got knives.
Yeah. There is a really good. Let me find this real quick. I want to.
Steve over in the chat says, "Prepare to repel borders, bill hooks, Foursquare." Yeah, that's old school, and that's exactly what's going on right here.
Okay, real quick.
Don't give up the ship.
Watcher, I'm going to put this. Actually, there's in that story there is a Twitter post by Ian Ellis. If you could open that up because it has a good bulletized list. It shows all the videos. From different points of view in the thread. Yeah, there we go. So let me go through here. Chinese Coast Guard deployed tear gas, brazen act of aggression. Filipino troops valiantly fought back and defended their position. The Chinese Coast Guard employed physical attacks, bladed weapons, blaring sirens, and blinding strobe lights. Threatened Philippine soldiers with axes, knives, and bolos, and began hurling rocks and other objects. Here's the thing: you're not just going to find rocks in the ocean. So they clearly brought the rocks with them, right? That was their projectile weapon that they brought with them. Now, Jim, this is very similar to what we saw in kind of along the Indian China border. No.
Yeah, it worked for them in the India-China case, and the Indians finally figured out they'd push back and did a pretty good job. But this is difficult because you need infrastructure out there. You need, rigid hull vessels, not ribs. And there's going to be a problem. This will escalate, and we've been talking about it.
So looking at this video here, if you can see the Chinese guy, look at it, he's stabbing the rib with the knife. You see that?
Oh, over here, yeah.
Yeah, it's at the kind of the bottom.
It's deflated as well.
So the Philippines is going to need some cover on this. They're trying to get better vessels, but you can also guarantee that the U.S. is telling them not to be too aggressive about defending themselves. So there's a game afoot to kind of push this out past the election, is my take. But at some point, somebody's going to die, and regardless of the death, the Chinese are going to blame the Philippines and the U.S. Right? It's also spinning up with the Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin. They're running maneuvers now right up against the borderline of the Vietnamese line of control through Tonkin. So the Chinese are putting full court press on. I mean, and this has a lot to do with what we see in North Korea with Putin, and it's what we see with the Houthis continuing to take ships down, and what we see with Israel turning on Hezbollah is everybody around the world in the other club, which I'm calling it a club now after the visit to Pyongyang. The other club is going to squeeze us as hard as they can in the next 4 to 5 months and hope to keep us unstable. And the U.S. will do what the U.S. always does, which is slap more tariffs on and drive more people into the hands of the club where they're building an alternative to the dollar. So you're going to see headlines saying, oh, the RMB's crashing, the ruble's crashing. They don't care, right? Because they sell stuff. Their stuff's going to be really cheap. So the only way it's going to work out is if the United States doesn't buy anything from China. And we've seen how that goes. I don't know. I don't see an out to this.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you're absolutely right, Jim. Essentially, it's going to continue. We're going to pressure the Philippines into not being too aggressive, and China, if they don't push back, China is going to continue to increase the pressure to the point where somebody's going to get killed, and then it's just going to it'll be like one guy gets killed or shot or stabbed or something like that, and then the next time, just a machine gun is going to open up, right, and there will be many dead. And who knows which side it'll come from, and then it'll be almost a declaration of a kind of a lukewarm war.
So while this was setting up, the PLAN ran 4 combatants up from the south through the channel right below Palawan, which is it's considered a navigation channel, but it basically shoots them out right below where this Second Thomas Shoal is. So they had naval strike capacity within range of what's going on here the whole time. And you just don't get the full picture because it doesn't suit the politics at home. But this is escalating much more rapidly in the last month, and it's escalating globally. And they're using every possible partner to this club. Remember we called them maquiladoras a couple of years ago when Wagner Group was blown up. It's the same thing. It's being centrally managed and choreographed, and the U.S. is in no position to respond to it. So it appears we're going to do here with the Philippines what we did in Yemen, which is just let them keep sinking ships and doing what they want, and then hoping somebody complains. Send us a letter, right? This is Hans Blix all over again. We're going to send a very strong letter.
Yeah. Well, it's just so frustrating, right? Because there's no easy answer for the Philippines. Because I don't see any real support coming from the current administration that would actually give them the kind of support that they would need to make this fight a real fight. And the other part of it is if they were to fight back in any kind of real way, I mean, China is big and they're not scared of using force, so it wouldn't go well for the Philippines.
So the way you counter this is the way China did it, which is you flood the zone, right?
Yeah.
You get every possible permutation of vessel out there and constantly wear them down. The Chinese are in the mode of wearing the Philippines down. And what they don't understand is it's not going to work this time. And so that's why I think conflict is imminent here. And the only thing that,
let me point something out here from a maritime veteran perspective. While these ribs are perfectly seaworthy, when you're out in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by hundreds of miles of water in every direction, that boat is really small. And to be fighting and trying to board another boat or get back on your boat after having boarded a much larger ship, it's a really small boat. It adds a little bit of stress to the conflict. So.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, and these guys right here,
pattern rocks though. I need it.
I was gonna say, I think these guys right here are actually the Philippine Navy SEALs.
Is that
I know
a mutation of lizard?
Yeah, it's a tiger stripe. It looks like a tiger stripe combat shirt, is what it is.
Yeah, look at him trying to he's got an axe in his hand too.
And, those guys, but the interesting thing is that the Chinese are not trying to board these craft. They're just trying to harass them and basically overwhelm them and keep them from being able to do
They did board and seize one.
They boarded and seized weapons, so.
Well, we don't see it here.
That's the guy who lost a finger getting treated right there.
Do you remember last year when we talked about what this would escalate like? It's the board and inspect piece that is about to hit a commercial vessel. And I've watched the large Coast Guard vessels, China Coast Guard vessels, move north towards Bashi and move north towards the island of Batanes. So I'm going to guess that they're going to do a stop and inspect on a commercial vessel. And they're setting the precedent for the stop and inspect as part of the changes to the law that they released a few weeks ago. So this is a maneuver to test tolerance by the West. And it's clear the West is just kind of pretending this didn't happen. And the Filipinos at some point are going to get very frustrated with the lack of support they receive. But what you see here is illegal activity in another country's sovereign territorial area. It's been found to be by UNCLOS. It's been found to be part of the Philippines. It's under their control. And the Chinese are ignoring the law. So, but the problem we're going to run into is that we do this too. Our Coast Guard is very aggressive about its right to stop people anywhere and inspect their vessels.
It's how we've been stopping drug shipments.
Exactly.
And the international waters.
And the use of the law, in those days, it was DEA/Secret Service who came up with the mechanism to justify it. I think it was out of the Miami field office. The Chinese are just mocking us because we do it as well. So our stop and search across the Middle East for the 20 years of GWAT set a precedent for what the Chinese are doing in the South China Sea. So we have an issue. And I don't think we know how to get out of this problem. At some point, somebody will die and we'll have a worse problem.
Yeah. Well, all it takes is one death, especially on the Philippine side, and people are going to get very combative about this whole thing. So,
I should add real quick. People say he lost a finger. He lost a thumb. That's the guy's working life. That's it.
Yeah, that's actually arguably way more important than a finger.
Yeah, but the fish wouldn't give it back.
That's right. Yeah, there's actually here's more footage.
Were we wanting to watch this DOD statement at all?
Nah.
No.
Nah. I mean, what are they going to do? We're going to tell them to not fight.
Oh, come on. Nobody wants to hear the concerned hand-wringing. All right.
Well, the interesting thing is, right here where they're pulling that stuff out, and he studied. They're stealing the stuff off the boat. You know, they're threatening to hit the guy as he comes over. They're doing the dazzling. I'm really surprised the Chinese just don't do the blinding lasers. I mean, that absolutely seems like something the Chinese would do.
I'm surprised the Filipino Marines didn't open up with a 240.
I know that's exactly right, Joe. I mean, and that's what's going to end up happening eventually. So,
and China doesn't care if the Philippines kills 10 of its sailors, because that gives them the ammo they need.
Right, that's right.
They're looking for the escalation justification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny thing about Chinese, we got a lot more. So.
Well, exactly right. Just like how Ukraine is finding out they're running out of people, and Russia, shockingly, three times the size of Ukraine, has plenty of people to continue the fight. So, go figure.
And yes, for the record, I am researching that camo pattern right now.
So before we move on, I do have to say, this was this is my favorite part. I got to say, these wolf warriors sitting down here, what I want to say 9 feet below and like 10 feet away.
It's shaking the knife
up on the deck, giving them the, ooh, we're going to get you. And then they, because none of them have an original thought in their head, they all decide to start doing it at the same time, which makes it look even more ridiculous. As the guys up here are like, yeah, let's just throw water or shit or whatever on you.
Yeah, they were throwing white. He's like, yeah, right here. They're probably piss buckets. That would be chemical warfare.
It's actually interesting that whole rib side was collapsed because they're not built that way.
Yeah,
they're actually built in cells, and it shouldn't have all collapsed unless it took multiple stabs. So
I think that's their modus operandi. They come along, they disable the cells along one side, and that's the side they try to board over, gets them physically closer. And you saw the guy with the hook grabbing shit out of the thing. The Chinese have spent a lot of time perfecting this. It's nothing new to them.
All right. Let us move along to the next story here.
Where were the U.S. Navy ships to defend our little brothers in the
Pacific? As far away as possible, and if we have an extra submarine, it's probably sitting up 400 miles north where that big Coast Guard cutter went day before yesterday.
Yeah.
We keep our defense promises.
All right. U.S. ready to back Israel against Hezbollah if diplomacy fails. So the irony is we've seen a general policy of from the Biden administration basically saying, hey, Israel, don't get too out of hand down there in Gaza. Yet us talking out of so we want peace and we want to kind of dial it back, right, in Gaza. Yet here in the northern portion that we've been talking about for some time now, Israel is clearly looking northwards at potential kind of rises any day now that Israel could potentially go on an anti-Hezbollah offensive. Yet when it comes to the U.S., no dial it back, hey, full speed ahead, guys. Not only will we support your effort to do so, we will actually send you support in various different ways. On Thursday, Biden's special envoy to the region, Amos Hochstein, signaled to the Lebanese government that if diplomacy fails, the U.S. ready to stand behind Israel in a new anti-Hezbollah offensive. The blunt warning was delivered as Hochstein is meeting with officials on both sides of the border, and as Israel's top generals have lately approved war plans for offensives into southern Lebanon. He was previously in Israel at the start of this week and now is in Beirut. The U.S. will stand by Israel and not condemn them publicly if it launches an offensive against Hezbollah, he said. Let's see here. Basically, the envoy conveyed that Washington anticipates roughly 5 more weeks of intense fighting in Gaza, after which it would pause its main offensive across the enclave, and that would allow them to then shift their focus northward. Hochstein warned Israeli officials intend to turn their full focus on the northern border with the aim of pushing Hezbollah back from the area. So roughly 60 to 96,000 displaced Israelis can return to their homes before the start of the school in the fall. So, guys, I mean, it looks like we're up for round 2 in Israel versus everybody that has ever said that we hate Israel. Now, I don't blame Israel for doing this. I think Hezbollah is a correct enemy to go after, especially if you're Israel. But I don't know that the U.S. has any part of this fight.
I think they might be changing their mind because it might be advantageous for them in the election cycle, which is something that should be a concern to people. But the Israelis,
talking about the U.S.
The Israelis were very clear this week as they return reservists, the equipment and new reservists is going north to the northern border. So there's going to be a rapid phasing of refreshed units north. And I think they're going to kick off. I think what's happened is they understand that nothing they've done for the last 30 years in the way of trying to placate Palestinians and Hezbollah have worked. And I think the internal decision's been made to get rid of the threat.
And I think, too, that the IDF has learned the lessons of Wadi Sulaki, and they won't put themselves in that position by being overconfident in their deployment of armor without infantry support. They learned that lesson the very hard way. So.
Yeah, they lost a lot of the Merkavas. Active duty armor units got pummeled. There was a lot of kind of pointing fingers, but ultimately they learned the lesson in that war that the Arabs learned. I think it was the 73 war where absolutely the Israelis pummeled the Arab armored forces with anti-tank rockets. Joe, I mean, and a lot of the things we've seen Hezbollah absolutely embracing a lot of the tactics that we've seen used in Ukraine, but by both sides in Ukraine. So I wonder maybe if some of this, and Hezbollah is a much more capable opponent than Hamas was. I wonder if even with Israel being prepared for that, I wonder if potentially there is some spoiling attacks that could occur using FPF drones and things.
The biggest
like that.
indication, and if you read H. John Poole's books, he talks about Wadi Sulaki extensively. The indication is that they had North Korean help in preparing the positions they launched that ambush from.
Yeah,
meaning subterranean and multiple angles on the avenue of approach for the armor. The first RPG triggers the ERA, and the second one goes right where the first one hit with no ERA protection. So, they absolutely, both sides have taken notes and decided that engagement's not happening again. So,
well, there's also one thing about this that why would we spend all our time telling them, stop doing things in Gaza and yet be all for Lebanon? And the fact is, the optics look better. Hezbollah is much closer, as we have all pointed out, to actually being a stand-up military. They aren't one, but they are much closer. So it's when you have a whole bunch of neocons that actually do want a war with Iran, and you have better optics overall because you're actually going to be hitting real paras with not that many civilians in the way, it's no wonder that we're willing to support this.
And there are plenty of Hezbollah units that have literal Iranian company grade officers. So.
Right. Well, and they've learned a lot of lessons in the recent wars in Syria, right? Against a variety of enemies, everything from the U.S. all the way to ISIS, and
that's an interesting point, right? Hezbollah has recent and ongoing combat experience against big militaries, both Russian and they're working with the Russians, but both Russian and U.S. So they know how
really
to work
against the against the U.S. out west, right? Because the SDF was fighting everybody out there, but then you had the Turkish-backed. I can't remember what's the group that the Turkish are supporting. I can't remember, but it's ultimately the Al Nusra kind of the Al Qaeda affiliated Islamists that really made up that Turkish backed force. And so, yeah, absolutely. And Turkey went toe to toe with some Syrian forces as well. So I'm sure Hezbollah has learned lessons from that fight as well. So I think what you're going to see is a new Hezbollah that is going to be a tough opponent for the Israelis. But let's be honest, the Israelis have learned a lot of lessons too, both in Gaza and from watching the war in Ukraine. Joe, I think,
if you don't think there are Israeli advisors on the ground in Ukraine, I got bad news for you.
Well, yeah. It's the funny thing is every country that doesn't have the endless checkbook like us is actually having to learn practical lessons from the Ukraine-Russia war. So it'll be interesting to see how Israel, they've got some deep pockets, but at the same time, they also have been known for innovative solutions. So I'm curious to see how that works out. Let's see. Thoughts, Jim? Any thoughts on this before we move on?
Sorry, the unmute wouldn't work.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think Israel is between a rock and a hard place, and what's happened is the center liberal candidates who were on side with the war have become very frustrated with the conservative movement and Bibi, and the world was trying to bring Bibi down, right? So the Biden administration really wanted to get rid of Bibi, and Obama wanted to get rid of Bibi, and so they're trying to undo the damage they've done to the Israeli position, and they just can't help themselves. They keep doing things like delaying the delivery of large format air delivered weapons. People just step on it. There are so many people in DC who just don't like Israel anymore. And it's rather sad because we put at risk the only democracy in the Middle East. They're not perfect, but I think Biden and the Democrat core understand that allowing what happened in the U.S. for the Palestinian and Hamas demonstrations that are still ongoing, right, has really damaged their position with American Jews and with people who ally themselves with American Jews, like the evangelical movement. So, really bad act by the incumbent powers in D.C. And it's just more bad foreign policy by the foreign policy team in D.C.
I have a solution.
Yeah, go ahead.
See that green and black symbol up there, made by a fan of the show. I am willing to step in as the new king of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, holding it out as a place of religious freedom for all parties. So I can solve this.
Real quick, I just realized I missed a super chat over on Rumble. This goes back to the Juneteenth thing. Peter Chase Helicopters for $5 over on Rumble says, I thought Juneteenth was to celebrate anti-communism and mark the day when the federal government made the commie Rosenbergs take a ride on old Sparky up to Sing Sing in 1953 for communist espionage.
my favorite thing about this is the annual communist cope about this that happens online that immediately gets slapped down with records that came out after the Rosenberg's execution, exposing that the U.S. government knew for 100% sure that they did it, and in fact has records of them being paid for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like lies behind damn lies. A BKO Chis for $5 over on Rumble says AWOL FEE will be out on Monday, Uncle Bob. I don't know what that means.
That's probably a book, I'm going to guess.
AWOL.
Give us more info.
Yeah.
Let me address the one just below that by Squishy Hunter. Didn't DA Bragg drop nearly all charges for the Columbia occupiers? No, he didn't drop nearly all charges. He dropped 100% of all charges against the Columbia U occupiers. So, yeah. This is what I talked about in my article over at tactical-wisdom.com about the unequal application of justice. I guarantee you that if right-wing folks had occupied that, every one of them would still be held in solitary for sedition.
Many Dip
mean-
has discovered Palmetto State Armory. There's a glimmer of hope for the future.
No, listen, Mini Demp right now is on a bow fishing expedition. That's what he wants to do. And I'm trying to encourage that as much as I can. So
Hey,
we have a
welcome,
stand
Sam.
sighting. Welcome.
Hi guys, how are you?
We are good. You know what? You showing up is the perfect opportunity to segue out of the odds and ends and into kind of maybe announcement mode. You know, we told
you know what
we told
happened though? I'm going to tell you how Stan got here.
Yes.
I announced that I was willing to become the king of Jerusalem, and Jim got on the phone like a little snitch and called the Duke and said, "Hey, man, one of your boys." You know,
No, that's none of
Get your
that is
boy.
accurate. None of that is accurate. None of that is accurate. Sorry. It makes a nice story, but it's I just happened to wander in.
His Duke senses were tingling independently.
But now that we're here, I'd like to hear the story.
No, I just said that I have a solution to the whole Hezbollah, Israel, Hamas situation, and it's that they just make me the king of Jerusalem.
Do you have to have leprosy and wear a mask to do that, or what?
No, I'm the new and improved king. I don't have.
Listen,
to wear
Joe.
some mask.
Listen,
He's
Joe.
he's too pretty to wear a mask.
Listen, Joe. As far as
But if you're going to go that way, if you're going to go that way, and you have a sister that looks like Eva Green, can you hook me up? That's all I'm asking.
well, listen, Joe.
No.
Listen, Joe. As long as we're going that way, I think Stevie J's got an idea here that you should at least listen to for staffing parameters. Sikhs, perfect neutral third party.
It's not a bad idea.
But listen, though, I live in a Sikh community at the moment. Hey, they ain't all that nice.
No, but we don't want nice.
Well, that's the point for a security force.
It's true. It's true.
Or Gurkhas, you could do Gurkhas too. I mean,
Gurkhas would be all right.
Right? Yeah, that would be all right. Well, if I remember correctly, the Saint Tom Clancy, peace be among him, he actually came up with that solution. Making, I think
So-
he had the Vatican take charge of Jerusalem, didn't he?
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
why there's a good reason, at least in Michigan, to register yourself as a Sikh? Because they are exempt from carrying concealed weapon laws in Michigan because they have a
Yes.
religious duty to always be armed with a knife.
Interesting.
So-
Interesting.
Yeah,
But
that
you can't
ceremonial
then use it for a Glock. You know. That's
Well, to be clear,
Unless you put a bayonet on your Glock, and then you're
I
good.
have a Glock bayonet, y'all.
I knew you would.
I
I knew
knew
you
you
would.
yeah, a part of their male coming of age ceremony is swearing that they will always carry the knife with them.
There's a lot to be said for that.
There is.
All right. Let's see. Here we go. Potentially criminal for $2 says, where will Jerusalem place the Dolioian quarter? Wouldn't that be the Italian quarter?
Squarely in southern Lebanon. Anyway,
Somewhere with a coastline, right?
yeah.
That's right. Like
Just
I said,
always
this is
keep tabs on where Georgia Maloney is if you make him the king of Jerusalem.
I mean, every king needs a concubine.
So I'm just doing a time check here. It's 8:25 Mountain Time, and you guys aren't even to the first topic yet. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Well,
We've got to get off of YouTube, so we should go ahead and do that.
In fairness, Stan, we did go balls deep into the Philippine Navy versus the Chinese Coast Guard. Stabbing attacks against boats.
Axes and swords and spears and billhooks.
Yeah, it was that. I don't know if you saw that. But it's
Yeah,
worth it.
I did. They just rotated those guys out of the Himalayas onto
Yep.
Coast Guard duty and baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire. It's
Yeah, are we all missing that this is
Or cricket
this is just-
bats.
Yeah, this is just the from a very poor province platoon.
oh
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Just wait till that one vet shows up with his +5 Vorpal bayonet, and it's all over. All right, let's do this. Before we switch over to Rumble, I'd like to now that we've got the man, the myth, the legend, the Virginia gentleman here. Let's talk real quick about the CFC Shield event that we'll be doing in August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is the new date. We announced this earlier in the week. and it is it's a shift that is solid. This is absolutely solid. We had a conflict with the previous week, but this week now, the venue, the people, everybody's lined up. Joe, you've already talked to pretty much all the bigwigs who had committed, and they have now switched weeks. And we have other people that we're going to be able to announce in the near future. As far as speakers and maybe some classes or some seminars that'll be going on. Do you want to talk about the Shield Arms piece of this, Stan?
I'd like to wait until I have it all lined out, but yes,
right.
we are the name sponsor in this, and we're putting together sort of a list of things that will be coming, including a website, which you'll be able to register and do some other things on. And so that'll be soon. But I think it's going to be a fun event. We have a couple of new things we'll be talking about down there. And I think it's going to be great.
And ideally, this website, once it's up, it will kind of stay up, right? And when we do the next one,
how much money you got?
Well, that's right. It depends on how much we make. I don't know. How much does a sponsor have, right? That's the question.
You may want to take this offline. I'm just saying,
But anyway, so yeah, so
I'm okay with that.
Are the dates for the event? More to follow as far as details, but we are absolutely solid on those dates. I have not bought my ticket yet, but I have been given an assurance by Household 6 here in Korea that my attendance is allowed. So that was the final kind of. I know, right? I mean, that's
well. You better get out of there before North and South Korea cook off.
I hope I'm able to actually fly back. That's.
I know that I talked to him more than you, but did you tell your dad the date change?
I have not told him yet. So.
I'll get on it.
Well,
yeah, I will do that.
In before chat says, "Isn't that what this is?"
Yes.
Oh, ha 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 ha. On that topic, though, I almost scored us a good guest. James Wesley Rawls' son, who runs Survival Realty. He was down for going, but he's got a backpacking trip in the area that same weekend. And I was like, what's more fun, backpacking or hanging out with me? Let's be honest. And he's going backpacking. And so,
well, the cool thing about
I think he voted, right?
The cool thing about it is that once we do the first one of these events, we establish it at this location, and then we're able to then put the next mark on the calendar. This will be something that will happen, again and again. Ideally,
let me be honest. A lot of you may be concerned about the location and how far out it is. It's worth it. Going to that part of the country, it's phenomenal. It cannot be described. It's
well, you have to clear Dutchy immigration, though. I was just saying. So part of the website function is to check credentials and to vet people in terms of
and it's specifically for Canadians now. There are some specific entry requirements that are lightened a little bit for Albertans, but
welcome to Zangaro. That's all.
Then how was I allowed up there the first time is all I'm saying.
Well,
you slipped in. You hid in the back of somebody's truck. And
Sean, that was a pilot program, and we've ended the pilot program. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Hunts the Dirty Roofer for $5 says, Scott, make it so. He's bringing the dirty pie, and that's mission critical equipment. Absolutely correct. The Derby pie situation is something that is on my mind, and we will make sure that happens. And if you were there last summer, if you know, Derby pie is not to be trifled with. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, that's about all we have for the YouTube portion of the show today. I want to thank everybody for being here, and let's go ahead, push the button, make sure you join us over on Rumble, and we've got the Daisy.
2-0.
No, do it. Make it happen.
You're good.
No, I would say that Daisy Girl has put the link in the chat, so go ahead and click on there and see us over there. Bye.
2-0. 1.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone.
3, 6, 4, 6.
The chair is against the wall.
3, 6.
The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5.
John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5, 0, 9.
It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.